The sun was already scorching the red earth of the small village when Mama Ngozi rose from the mat she used as a bed. Her body ached from years of hard labor, but she forced herself to move. For as long as she could remember, her life had been about sacrifice. Her husband had died when their 3 children were still very young, leaving her with nothing but their tiny mud house and the determination to give them a future better than hers. For years, she did everything imaginable to raise them. She sold roasted corn by the roadside under the blistering sun. She washed clothes for wealthier families who barely paid her enough to buy food. At one point, she even swept floors at the local bar, enduring the shame of drunken men mocking her. Each night she returned home with aching feet and hands raw from scrubbing. But when she saw her children sleeping peacefully, she knew it was worth it. The villagers often whispered, "Ngozi is wasting her time. Children of poor widows never make it far." But she ignored them. She saved every coin, eating the bare minimum, so she could send her children to school. When school fees were due, she sold her best clothes, the only ones she had for special occasions. She even cleaned the toilets at the village's only guest house, an embarrassing job that earned her ridicule, to make enough to buy her eldest son's textbooks. Over the years, her sacrifices paid off. Her children grew into bright young adults. The first, Chuka, earned a scholarship to the city. The second, Ifeoma, became known for her beauty and ambition, catching the attention of rich men in the city. The youngest, Emeka, followed his siblings to the city after finishing secondary school. Mama Ngozi believed her suffering was finally over. When she waved goodbye to them as they boarded the bus, she cried tears of joy. "Go, my children," she said, her voice trembling. "Make me proud. Don't forget where you came from." They promised to return. For a while, they called often. Chuka sent a little money once in a while, always apologizing for not sending more. Ifeoma promised she would buy her mother a new house when she settled down. Emeka sent her sweet words about how she would never be alone. Mama Ngozi believed them, but slowly the calls stopped. Months turned into years. When she called, they were always too busy. When she asked for help fixing the leaking roof, they said they would send money, but never did. Villagers began to notice, shaking their heads with pity. "Your children have forgotten you," they said. She defended them every time. "No, they're just struggling. They will come back for me." Then one rainy night, the roof finally gave way. Mama Ngozi sat in the corner of her collapsing home, shivering under the storm, clutching the only picture she had of her children. She waited, praying they would return. Instead, she received a letter weeks later, not from them, but from someone they had sent. The message was cold. They would not be returning, and she should stop bothering them. The betrayal crushed her. Word spread quickly through the village. People mocked her as she carried her few belongings to an abandoned hut at the edge of the village. All that suffering, all that cleaning and begging, for what? They sneered. For weeks, she lived off scraps. Sometimes she scavenged through the market's trash for food, hiding her tears as children laughed at her. At night, she whispered to the stars, "God, why? I gave them everything." One evening, as she sat under the mango tree where she often rested, she heard a faint cry. It was the sound of a child. She rose, following the sobbing until she found a small boy curled up near the roadside, barefoot and trembling. His clothes were torn, and his face streaked with dirt and tears. "Who left you here?" she asked softly. The boy flinched but didn't answer. She knelt beside him. "Come with me, my child. You will not sleep on the road tonight." She led him to her broken hut, sharing her last piece of bread with him. That night, as the boy slept peacefully beside her, Mama Ngozi stared at the ceiling and whispered, "Maybe my children abandoned me, but I will not abandon you." As dawn broke, the boy looked at her with wide eyes and asked, "Are you my mother now?" Mama Ngozi felt something stir in her heart. She didn't know it yet, but this little stranger would be the beginning of a new family, one that would never betray her. The boy's name was Kelechi. He was no older than 7, with eyes far too sad for someone his age. When Mama Ngozi asked where his parents were, he only shook his head. She did not press him. Instead, she treated his wounds with herbs she collected and gave him the only clean shirt she owned. Days turned into weeks, and Kelechi became part of her life. He helped her fetch water from the stream, gather firewood, and plant vegetables in the small patch of land behind her hut. For the first time in months, Mama Ngozi laughed again, softly, when Kelechi told her little jokes, and fully, when he ran to her with the first ripe tomato from their garden. The villagers watched, whispering among themselves. Ngozi is picking up other people's problems now. Can't she see she's suffering enough? One woman said at the market. First her children abandoned her. Now she's raising a street boy. Mama Ngozi ignored them. She had endured worse words before. Life was still hard. The hut leaked when it rained, and food was often scarce. Mama Ngozi took on odd jobs to earn money. Washing clothes, pounding cassava for market women, even sweeping the streets. Some villagers mocked her, others pitied her, but she held her head high. Every coin she earned went toward feeding Kelechi and saving for a better roof. One evening, as they sat under the mango tree eating roasted corn, Kelechi looked at her and said, "Mama Ngozi, when I grow up, I'll build you a big house so you never have to work again." Tears filled her eyes. She had heard promises like that before, but this time they felt different. Months passed, and another child appeared at her door, a little girl named Ada, abandoned by her relatives after her parents died. Mama Ngozi took her in without hesitation. Soon, word spread that anyone in need could find shelter with her. Over the next year, her small hut became a refuge for 5 children, each with a painful story, each finding warmth under her care. Despite the hardship, Mama Ngozi's heart was full. She taught the children how to farm, cook, and respect others. They, in turn, brought joy to her lonely days. Together, they planted more crops, and their little garden began to thrive. But not everyone was happy with her growing influence. Some villagers became jealous, whispering that she must be practicing witchcraft because her farm was producing more than anyone else's. Others tried to discourage her, saying, "These children will grow and leave you like your own did." Mama Ngozi only smiled. "I'm not raising them to stay. I am raising them to become good people." One afternoon, a stranger came to the village. He was a young man, well-dressed, and carrying a leather briefcase. The villagers gathered around, curious. He asked for Mama Ngozi. When he found her, he introduced himself as Samuel, a social worker from the city. "I've heard about the children you're taking care of," Samuel said. "You're doing something remarkable. I'd like to help." She hesitated, suspicious of kindness from strangers, but Samuel was sincere. He offered to connect her with an NGO that could provide support, food, clothing, and schooling for the children. Mama Ngozi's eyes widened with gratitude. "God bless you, my son," she said. That night, as the children ate a proper meal for the first time in months, they laughed and played around the fire. Mama Ngozi sat back, watching them with pride. She had lost her old family, but here, in the laughter of these once-abandoned children, she found something new. As the fire burned low, Kelechi whispered to her, "Mama, why do the other children in the village call us strangers?" She smiled and pulled him close. "Because they don't understand yet. One day, they will see who we really are." But as she spoke, a shadow moved at the edge of the trees. Someone was watching them. The shadow that lingered at the edge of the trees that night was no accident. The next morning, Mama Ngozi awoke to find that someone had scattered her drying cassava across the ground and trampled her small vegetable garden. Her heart sank, but she refused to let the children see her despair. Instead, she quietly cleaned up the mess, whispering prayers under her breath. Later that day, one of the market women approached her. "Ngozi, you need to be careful. There are people who do not like what you're doing. They say you're attracting curses by taking in strangers." Mama Ngozi smiled sadly. "How can caring for the innocent bring curses? If God sees my heart, he will protect us." The whispers grew louder. Some villagers accused her of using the children for rituals because her crops seemed to flourish. Others said she was doing it for attention. Still, Mama Ngozi stood firm. "Let them talk," she told Kelechi and Ada. "Our work speaks louder than their words." Meanwhile, Samuel, the social worker, kept his promise. Within weeks, a small donation arrived from the NGO he had contacted. They provided school supplies, clothes, and even helped repair the roof of her hut. For the first time in years, Mama Ngozi felt like her prayers were being answered. The children thrived in school. They were mocked at first, called bush children and orphans, but their good manners and intelligence soon earned them respect. Kelechi, in particular, excelled in his studies. He told Mama Ngozi, "One day, I'll become someone great, Mama, so that no one can ever look down on us again." With the support of the NGO, Mama Ngozi expanded her small farm. She began planting more crops, and soon, she had enough produce to sell at the market. She taught the children how to manage the small business, making sure they understood the value of hard work. As their success grew, so did resentment among some villagers. One evening, a group of men came to her hut, demanding that she send the children away. "You are bringing strangers into our land," one said. "These are not your blood. They will bring us trouble." Mama Ngozi stood her ground. "These children are my blood now. I will not abandon them the way others abandoned me." The men left, but their glares promised future trouble. Weeks later, news of her kindness began to spread beyond the village. Travelers passing through stopped to buy from her farm, leaving with stories of the widow who raised abandoned children as her own. Some even left small gifts. Slowly, she began to be known not as the poor abandoned woman, but as Mama of strangers. One afternoon, while selling vegetables at the market, she noticed a man in city clothes watching her from distance. His face seemed familiar, but she couldn't place it. Later, he approached her. "Mama Ngozi," he said, "you may not remember me, but I remember you. Years ago, when I was lost and hungry, you gave me food." She gasped. "Samuel?" He smiled. "Yes, I have never forgotten your kindness. I have done well in life now, and I want to help you more." He handed her an envelope filled with money. "Use this to build something better for the children." Her hands trembled as she accepted it. "May God bless you, my son." That night, as the children danced and sang with joy, Mama Ngozi looked at the stars. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope that the future would be brighter than the past. But as the celebration went on, a villager rushed to her hut, breathless. "Mama Ngozi, come quickly. Someone set fire to your farm." Flames lit up the night sky, and the children screamed as they ran to see the inferno consuming their hard work. Should Mama Ngozi fight back against those who hate her, or forgive and keep building despite the sabotage? Comment your thoughts, like this video if her strength inspires you, and subscribe. Next chapter will show how she rises from the ashes. The fire raged like an angry beast, devouring everything in its path. The children cried as they watched the crops they had nurtured with their small hands turn to ash. Mama Ngozi stood silently, tears streaming down her face. She held Kelechi's trembling hand, whispering, "Don't cry, my son. They can burn our farm, but they cannot burn our spirit." Villagers gathered to watch, some with pity, others with smirks. One man muttered, "That's what happens when you take in strangers." Mama Ngozi ignored him. She had no time for words. She had children to protect. When the flames died out, the farm was nothing but charred remains. The children sat in the ashes, silent. Ada clung to Mama Ngozi's wrapper, sobbing. "Mama, what will we eat? What will we sell?" Mama Ngozi knelt beside her and wiped her tears. "We will plant again. Fire may destroy today, but tomorrow we will grow stronger." The next morning, she led the children back to the burnt field. They began clearing the land, their small hands working alongside hers. It was backbreaking work, but she used it as a lesson. "Do you see the soil?" she asked them. "It has been burned, but it is still alive. So are we." Word of the fire reached Samuel, the social worker. 2 days later, he arrived with help, bags of seeds, tools, and even volunteers from the NGO. Together, they replanted the farm. The children worked tirelessly, their determination stronger than ever. Weeks passed, and the rains came. To everyone's surprise, the new crops grew faster and healthier than before. Villagers began to whisper again, but this time, Their voices were tinged with awe. How is it possible? After the fire, her farm is even better. One evening, a wealthy businessman passing through the village stopped to buy produce. He was impressed by the quality and asked to meet Mom Ngozi. After hearing her story, he offered to buy her harvest in bulk for his restaurant chain. He even suggested helping her start a larger farm. Mama Ngozi was overwhelmed. "Why would you help me?" she asked. He smiled. "Because you remind me of my mother, and because the world needs more people like you." With his support, Mama Ngozi expanded her farm and began selling to the city. She taught the children how to keep records, how to save, and how to build. Slowly, their lives transformed. But not everyone was happy with her success. One evening, as she returned from the market, she found a note pinned to her door. It read, "Leave the strangers or face the consequences." The threat didn't scare her. She gathered the children and said, "We will not be afraid. We will protect each other." The next day, a group of villagers confronted her at the market, accusing her of bringing misfortune to the village. They demanded she send the children away. Mama Ngozi stood tall. "You call them strangers, but they're my family. I will never abandon them." Her defiance inspired others. Several women stepped forward, offering to help her farm. Slowly, opinions began to shift. People who once mocked her started respecting her. As the farm prospered, so did the children. Kelechi was awarded a scholarship to a prestigious school in the city. Ada won a national essay competition. The once mocked strangers were becoming role models. Just when life seemed perfect, a car pulled up to the farm one afternoon. Mama Ngozi froze as three familiar figures stepped out, her biological children. Dressed in city clothes, but looking desperate, they approached slowly. Chuka, the eldest, spoke first. "Mama, we need your help. Her abandoned children have returned. But are they here for love or for her wealth? What should Mama Ngozi do? Embrace them or protect her new family?" Comment your thoughts, like if her courage moves you, and subscribe. Next chapter will reveal the truth behind their return. The moment Mama Ngozi saw her biological children standing on her farm, her heart twisted. Memories of the nights she cried for them, the humiliation she endured while working to raise them, and the letter they sent cutting ties with her flashed in her mind. She clutched her wrapper tightly, forcing herself to stay calm. "Mama," Chuka said again, his voice trembling slightly. We are sorry for everything. Life in the city has been hard. We lost our jobs, our homes, everything. Please forgive us." Ifeoma, the daughter who once promised to buy her a new house, stepped forward. Her once-groomed nails were chipped, and her designer shoes were worn. "Mama, we were wrong. We need you. You're all we have left." Emeka stood silently behind them, avoiding her gaze. The children Mama Ngozi had raised, the so-called strangers, stood protectively around her. Kelechi, now tall and confident, looked at them with suspicion. Ada crossed her arms, frowning. "Mama, why are they here now? Where were they when you were suffering?" The tension was thick. Villagers began to gather, whispering. Some said, "Her real children are back. She should forgive them." Others muttered, "They smell her wealth." Mama Ngozi's voice was calm but firm. "You left me when I had nothing. You sent me a letter telling me not to bother you. Now that I have something, you remember I am your mother." Chuka knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face. "Mama, we were young and foolish. Please let us stay." Ifeoma also knelt, sobbing. "We have nowhere to go. We are sorry, Mama." The adopted children exchanged worried glances. Kelechi stepped closer to Mama Ngozi. "Mama, be careful. They abandoned you once. What if they hurt you again?" Mama Ngozi touched his shoulder gently. "My son, a mother's heart forgives. But forgiveness does not mean foolishness." She allowed her biological children to stay temporarily, but warned them, "This is my home, and these are my children too. You will respect them." For a while, things seemed peaceful. The three worked on the farm, pretending to be grateful. But at night, they whispered among themselves, plotting. One evening, Ada overheard them. "Mama has so much money now. We could take over everything and send these strangers away. She will forgive us no matter what." Ada told Kelechi, who warned Mama Ngozi. She listened quietly, her face unreadable. The next day, Mama Ngozi acted as if nothing had happened. She continued to feed them and teach them. Meanwhile, she quietly updated her legal documents with the help of Samuel, ensuring that her wealth and farm were protected in case of betrayal. The tension grew when Chuka secretly tried to access her bank account using forged documents but failed. Ifeoma attempted to convince Mama Ngozi to sell the farm and move to the city with them, but Mama Ngozi refused. One night, the biological children made their move. They tried to steal the cash she kept hidden for emergencies. But as they slipped out of the hut, they were surrounded. Kelechi and the other adopted children had been waiting. "Mama knew you would do this," Kelechi said coldly. The commotion woke Mama Ngozi. She stepped outside, her face lit by the lantern's glow. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why do you choose greed over love?" Chuka dropped the bag of money, shaking. "Mama, enough," she said, her voice rising. "You have shown me your hearts. You see me as nothing but a source of wealth. You forgot the woman who scrubbed toilets to send you to school." The villagers, drawn by the noise, gathered again. Some gasped, others shook their heads. Mama Ngozi looked at her biological children with tears in her eyes and said, "From this day, you are strangers to me." Her words echoed in the night as the villagers gasped. But just as she turned away, Chuka whispered to his siblings, "If we can't get it with love, we'll take it by force." Her biological children have revealed their true intentions. Should Mama Ngozi drive them away or give them one last chance? Comment what you think, like if you believe she should protect her new family, and subscribe. Next chapter will uncover the dark scheme they are plotting. The morning after the confrontation, Mama Ngozi woke to a heavy silence. The adopted children were uneasy, and Kelechi stood guard near the entrance. The three biological children kept to themselves, avoiding her eyes. She could feel the storm brewing in their hearts. That day, she went to the market accompanied by Ada and Samuel, leaving the rest of the children at the farm. While she sold her produce, Samuel pulled her aside. "Mama, you need to be cautious. I overheard Chuka in the village yesterday asking questions about your bank account. He is planning something." Mama Ngozi nodded, her face calm, but her heart pounding. "I know, my son. They have darkness in their hearts, but we will not allow them to destroy what we built." Later that night, she called all the children, both biological and adopted, into the living room. The lantern light cast long shadows on the wall. "This house is my heart," she said softly. "Whoever lives here must live with love, not greed. If you cannot do that, you should leave now." Chuka smirked but said nothing. Ifeoma rolled her eyes. Emeka looked down at his feet, guilt flashing briefly in his eyes. None of them moved. The following days were tense. Chuka pretended to help on the farm, but at night he met with some shady villagers, bribing them to help him forge documents. Ifeoma tried to manipulate Mama Ngozi emotionally, saying, "Mama, we are your blood. Why do you treat those strangers better than us?" Mama Ngozi replied calmly, "Blood is not love. Love is who stays when everyone else leaves." One afternoon, while Mama Ngozi was meeting Samuel in the city to finalize the paperwork for her estate, Chuka made his move. With the help of two villagers, he attempted to break into her house to steal her property documents. But as soon as they opened the cabinet, an alarm blared. Kelechi had installed it with Samuel's help. The adopted children rushed in, armed with sticks, and confronted them. "You think you can steal from Mama?" Ada shouted. "Not while we are here." A fight broke out. The villagers fled, but Chuka and his siblings stayed, cornered by the adopted children. When Mama Ngozi returned, she found them restrained and furious. She looked at them with disappointment. "You have brought shame upon yourselves. You think only of what you can take, never of what you can give." The villagers who had helped Chuka were arrested that night, and word of the attempted theft spread quickly. The whole community now viewed Chuka, Ifeoma, and Emeka with disgust. Despite their betrayal, Mama Ngozi's heart still ached. She spent the night praying, asking God for guidance. At dawn, she made her decision. She would protect her legacy and the children who truly loved her at any cost. The next day, She gathered everyone. "You three have shown me that my wealth is more important to you than my love," she said to her biological children. "From today, you are no longer part of this home." Emeka fell to his knees, crying. "Mama, forgive me. I didn't want this. Chuka forced me." But Chuka's pride burned. "You think these strangers are better than us? You'll regret this." Mama Ngozi's voice was firm. "Leave. If you stay, you will destroy yourselves and everything I've built." The villagers escorted them out. Emeka turned back one last time, eyes filled with regret, but he followed his siblings. Mama Ngozi watched silently, her heart breaking but resolute. That night, under the cover of darkness, Chuka crept back to the farm with a can of kerosene. "If she won't give it to us," he hissed to Ifeoma, "we'll burn it all." The smell of kerosene filled the air as flames began to flicker near the barn. The danger is greater than ever. Will Mama Ngozi save her home, or will her ungrateful children destroy everything? Comment your thoughts, like this video if you're rooting for her strength, and subscribe. Next chapter will reveal the shocking confrontation that changes everything. The night was eerily quiet, except for the faint crackle of fire beginning to spread. The kerosene fumes drifted across the farm, mixing with the scent of the crops. Chuka crouched near the barn, his face twisted with rage, while Ifeoma stood behind him nervously. "Chuka, maybe this is too much," she whispered. "Too much," he snarled. "She chose those strangers over her real children. If we can't have this farm, no one will." Emeka, who had been dragged along reluctantly, trembled. "This is wrong. We've already done enough." "Shut up and keep watch," Chuka ordered. He struck a match, the small flame flickering in the darkness. Just as he moved to ignite the barn, a voice rang out. "Drop it!" Kelechi stood a few meters away, holding a stick with Ada and two other adopted children beside him. Their faces were set with determination. "You won't destroy Mama's home," Kelechi said, his voice steady. Chuka laughed bitterly. "Look at you, a street rat defending something that isn't even yours." "It's ours because we earned it," Kelechi shot back. "You abandoned her. You don't deserve her love or this farm." Before Chuka could react, Mama Ngozi appeared from the shadows, holding a lantern. Samuel stood behind her with two village guards. Her voice was calm, but carried a power that silenced everyone. "Chuka, Ifeoma, Emeka, is this what you have become? Destroyers?" For a moment, Chuka's hand trembled. Then his anger flared again. "She turned you against us, Mama. You made us feel like outsiders." "No," Mama Ngozi said softly. "You made yourselves outsiders when you chose greed over love." The guards moved forward, but Chuka stepped back, threatening to light the match. "Don't come any closer, or I'll burn it all." Kelechi didn't wait. With a swift movement, he knocked the match from Chuka's hand and tackled him to the ground. The other adopted children helped restrain him while the guards tied his hands. Ifeoma collapsed to her knees, crying, while Emeka stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. The villagers, awakened by the commotion, gathered around. They watched in silence as Mama Ngozi approached her children. She looked at Emeka first, placing a hand on his cheek. "You still have a heart, my son. Do not let it turn to stone." Emeka broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. She turned to Ifeoma, who whispered, "Mama, I'm sorry." Mama Ngozi nodded but said nothing. Finally, she looked at Chuka, who glared up at her with a mix of anger and shame. "You let your pride blind you. Tonight, you could have killed us all. From this day, you will never step foot on this land again." The guards took Chuka away as he shouted curses into the night. Ifeoma and Emeka followed, heads bowed. The villagers whispered, some with pity, others with satisfaction. When the crowd dispersed, Mama Ngozi turned to her adopted children. "You were brave tonight. You have protected not just this farm, but our family." Kelechi hugged her tightly. "We'll always protect you, Mama." The fire was extinguished, but the tension lingered. Mama Ngozi knew this was not the end of her trials, yet she also knew she was no longer alone. Her true family stood by her side. The next morning, a lawyer arrived unexpectedly with documents. He revealed that Chuka had filed a claim in the city court, accusing Mama Ngozi of illegally keeping wealth that belonged to him and his siblings. A legal storm was coming. Mama Ngozi now faces a courtroom battle against her own children. Will the law protect her, or will they use lies to take everything? Comment what you think, like this video if you believe truth will win, and subscribe. Next chapter will take you inside the courtroom, where shocking revelations await. The city courthouse was buzzing with murmurs as Mama Ngozi walked in, dressed in her simple wrapper and headscarf. Though she appeared calm, her heart pounded. Beside her stood Samuel, holding the necessary documents, and Kelechi, who refused to leave her side. The rest of the adopted children waited anxiously outside. On the other side of the room, Chuka, Ifeoma, and Emeka sat with a sharp-looking lawyer. Chuka smirked when he saw his mother. "She's old and weak," he whispered to his lawyer. "This will be easy." The judge, a stern man in glasses, entered, and the courtroom fell silent. The case began. Chuka's lawyer stood first, his voice dripping with confidence. "Your Honor, my clients are the biological children of Mama Ngozi. They claim rightful inheritance of her property, which she has wrongfully diverted to unrelated strangers. We request that this court restores what is legally theirs." Whispers filled the room. The judge turned to Mama Ngozi's side. Samuel stood and cleared his throat. "Your Honor, while it is true they are her biological children, the evidence will show that they abandoned her years ago, cutting all ties. Furthermore, my client legally owns all her property and has the right to decide her beneficiaries." The judge nodded. "Proceed with evidence." Samuel presented the letter where Chuka and his siblings told Mama Ngozi to stop contacting them. Gasps echoed through the room as the letter was read aloud. He also produced testimonies from villagers confirming the years of abandonment. Pictures of the burnt farm and the stolen money bag were displayed, proving their attempts to harm her. When it was Mama Ngozi's turn to speak, she stood slowly. "Your Honor, I raised my children with all I had. I scrubbed floors, I starved, I worked humiliating jobs so they could have an education. They left me to suffer alone. When I built a new life with children who loved me, they came back not for love, but for greed. This farm, this wealth is not theirs. It belongs to those who stood by me when I had nothing." The courtroom was silent except for the sound of Ifeoma quietly sobbing. Emeka bowed his head, avoiding his mother's gaze. Chuka, however, clenched his fists. "She's lying. She turned against us." The judge raised a hand for silence. "Enough. This court recognizes the documents presented, including legal ownership of the property. Furthermore, the plaintiffs have shown malicious intent toward the defendant. This court rules in favor of Mama Ngozi." Cheers erupted from the courtroom. Mama Ngozi closed her eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks. Kelechi hugged her tightly. "You did it, Mama." Outside the court, reporters swarmed around. Mama Ngozi ignored them, focusing only on her children. Ifeoma approached her, trembling. "Mama, I am sorry. I don't want your wealth. I just want your forgiveness." Mama Ngozi held her daughter's hand gently. "I forgive you, but forgiveness does not erase consequences. Go and build your own life." Emeka whispered, "Thank you, Mama," before walking away. Chuka stormed past, his pride too strong to allow even a glance back. As they left the courthouse, Samuel smiled. "It's over, Mama. You're free." But Mama Ngozi knew better. At home, she reinforced security on her farm, not out of fear but caution. She spent the following days with her new family, teaching them, loving them, and planning for a future where they would never have to endure what she had. One evening, the adopted children gathered around as she shared story. Blood is not what makes a family. Love is, and love is stronger than greed. Just as peace seemed to settle, a villager arrived breathlessly at her gate. "Mama Ngozi, you need to come quickly. Something has happened to Chuka." The words hung heavy in the air as everyone froze. Chuka's actions have led to a shocking consequence. What has happened? And will Mama Ngozi's heart soften once more? Comment your thoughts, like this video if you believe karma always comes back, and subscribe. Next chapter will reveal the truth behind the tragedy. The word struck Mama Ngozi like a thunderclap. She dropped the basket she was carrying, her heart racing. Without thinking, she rushed out of the gate with Kelechi and Ada following close behind. Samuel quickly drove them to the scene. When they arrived, a small crowd had gathered near the old highway outside the village. At the center of the commotion, Chuka lay on the ground, bleeding from a deep gash on his head. His car, which had swerved off the road, was wrapped around a tree. Ifeoma was kneeling beside him, crying uncontrollably, while Emeka tried to wave down help. "Mama!" Ifeoma screamed as she saw her. "Please help him." He was trying to leave the city when the accident happened. Mama Ngozi's breath caught in her throat. She dropped to her knees beside Chuka. His once proud face was pale, his eyes half open. "Mama," he whispered, voice weak. I was wrong." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she held his trembling hand. "My son, why did you let hatred consume you?" I thought I deserved everything," he rasped. "But I see now. I was the stranger." His voice broke, and for a moment, he looked like the little boy she had once carried on her back. The villagers stood in silence, their judgment replaced with pity. Samuel called an ambulance, but the nearest hospital was far. They used his car to rush Chuka to the clinic in the next town. For hours, Mama Ngozi sat by his bedside as the doctors worked to save him. She prayed like she had not prayed in years, whispering, "God, give me one more chance to forgive him properly." As dawn broke, Chuka opened his eyes fully. He reached for her hand. "Mama, if I don't make it, please don't hate me." She kissed his forehead. "I don't hate you, my son. I forgave you the moment you were born." Tears streamed down his cheeks. "Tell Kelechi, tell those children, I'm sorry for everything." Hours later, the doctor came out. "He's stable," he said, smiling. Mama Ngozi broke down in relief, thanking God over and over. When Chuka was well enough to be discharged, she took him back to the village. The adopted children, despite all he had done, welcomed him with compassion. Ada even offered to help him with his wounds. Kelechi, though wary, said, "You have to earn Mama's trust again." Over the following days, Chuka stayed quietly at the farm, helping with small tasks. He was no longer arrogant, no longer angry. He had been humbled. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he stood beside Mama Ngozi. "Mama," he said softly, "I want to start over. I don't want your wealth. I just want to be your son again." Mama Ngozi smiled through her tears. "You were always my son. But now, you must prove to yourself that you are worthy of the second chance God gave you." Just as peace seemed to finally settle over the farm, Samuel rushed in with a letter in hand. "Mama Ngozi," he said urgently, "you need to see this. Someone is trying to take legal control of your new contracts in the city." Everyone froze. Ifeoma stepped back, guilt flashing across her face. "Mama, I need to tell you something. Another betrayal is about to surface, and this time it may come from where Mama Ngozi least expects it. Will she survive the final test of loyalty? Comment your thoughts. Like this video if you believe truth will prevail, and subscribe. Next chapter will deliver the emotional and powerful conclusion. The air around the farm turned tense as Samuel handed the letter to Mama Ngozi. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. The document was an official notice. Someone had filed to seize control of the lucrative contract she had signed with city businesses. The claimant's name at the bottom made her heart sink. Ifeoma. The children gasped. Kelechi stepped forward. "Mama, she's trying to take everything again." Ada crossed her arms, glaring at Ifeoma. "After everything? After we forgave you?" Ifeoma burst into tears. "Mama, I didn't mean for it to go this far. A lawyer tricked me, told me I could claim part of the contract since I'm her daughter. I signed the papers out of desperation. I've been drowning in debt." Mama Ngozi's eyes were filled with pain, but her voice was calm. "Ifeoma, after all the chances I gave you, why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you trust me to help you?" "I was ashamed," Ifeoma whispered. "I thought you wouldn't forgive me." Samuel looked at Mama Ngozi. "We have to fight this quickly. If it goes through, she could take control of everything you've built." That night, Mama Ngozi sat alone under the mango tree, thinking. The adopted children gathered around her, offering comfort. Chuka, still recovering, limped over and knelt beside her. "Mama, if she wants to take everything, let her," he said softly. "What matters is that we have you. Not the farm, not the money you." Kelechi placed a hand on Chuka's shoulder. "We'll protect this family, no matter what." The next day, they all traveled to the city to contest the claim. In the courtroom, Ifeoma stood on one side, eyes red from crying, while Mama Ngozi stood tall with Samuel by her side. The judge asked, "Does the defendant have any evidence to support her claim?" Samuel stepped forward with a folder of documents. "Your Honor, my client legally owns all her assets. Furthermore, she has evidence that Ifeoma was coerced into signing fraudulent documents by a corrupt lawyer working for a competitor who wants her contracts." The court reviewed the evidence, including a recorded phone call Samuel had obtained, where the lawyer admitted to manipulating Ifeoma. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge banged his gavel. "This court finds the claim invalid and recognizes Mama Ngozi as the sole rightful owner of her contracts." Case dismissed. Outside, Ifeoma collapsed into tears. "Mama, I'm sorry. I let greed blind me again." Mama Ngozi knelt and hugged her. "My daughter, forgiveness is yours, but trust is earned. You must rebuild it slowly." With the case resolved, Mama Ngozi returned home with her family, both the children she had raised and the ones who had lost their way. Chuka worked tirelessly on the farm to make amends, while Ifeoma helped teach the younger children. Emeka, humbled, became Samuel's assistant, learning how to manage the business legally. Months passed, and the farm flourished like never before. The adopted children excelled in school, with Kelechi receiving a scholarship abroad. Mama Ngozi stood at the gate one evening, watching them play. Her heart was full. On the day she signed her final will, she gathered everyone. "This farm, this home, belongs to all who love it. I leave it to the children who stood by me and the ones who found their way back. Together, you will continue this legacy." Tears flowed as the family embraced her words. For the first time, they were truly united, not by blood but by love. Years later, people came from all over to see the woman who turned strangers into a family. Mama Ngozi became a legend, her story told in schools and churches as a lesson in love, sacrifice, and the true meaning of family. In her old age, she sat under the mango tree, surrounded by laughter, her eyes closed in peace. She whispered, "I was abandoned once, but God gave me a new family. Love always wins." Mama Ngozi's story teaches us that true family is not always blood, but those who stand by you through storms. What lesson did this story leave with you? Comment below, like this video if her strength inspired you, and subscribe for more heart-stirring African stories that touch the soul.